Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who are in attendance. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. If members of the public in attendance need to use the facilities, these are located back through the main door on the first floor. If there is a fire alarm, please leave the building by the nearest fire exit and make your way to the Cathedral Concourse. If the alarm is an intermittent sound, this indicates a lockdown. Attendants should stay in their seats and await further instruction. Before we start the meeting, please can I remind everyone that this is a meeting held in public and that the audio recording may be made available on the website in due course. Please therefore speak clearly into your microphones. Can I ask the Senior Democratic Service Officer if there are any apologies for absence or lateness?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Fitzgerald, with Councillor Casey substituting, and Councillor Hussain, with Councillor Jackie Allen substituting.
Thank you. Item 2, declaration of interest. Does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? Councillor Sharp, I've got your name here. Yeah. You want to put your mic on?
I was going to do an item 3, Chair, but you're indulgence, Karen.
If you declare your interest and then
Fine.
on item 3.
So I declare an interest in item 4.1, and as I come on to it, intend to make representation.
Thank you very much. Does any member wish to make representation as a ward councillor on any of their items listed? And yes, you've made that already.
As noted just there, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right, item 4.1. Please can I ask James Crosher to introduce the item?
Thank you, Chair. Can I just check that everybody can hear me okay? Yep, lovely, good, thank you. So this is a full planning application on a site in central Hampton. It is adjacent to Hampton Avenue and also accessed from Ashbourne Road, which leads to the Serpentine roundabout. So the site is in red there, and you can see the car park to the Serpentine shopping centre to the north, and then residential development at Hampton Avenue to the south. Okay, yeah. So in terms of the local plan policy context, the entire site lies within the Hampton Urban Extension, and that means that in principle several different forms of development would be acceptable here, including residential, commercial, retail, leisure or community development. We can see the blue line to the north here identifies the extent and the boundary of the district centre where the Serpentine Shopping Centre sits. We have an identified local centre to the west there, and then we have a primary shopping frontage, which is the purple lines within the shopping centre itself. Members will have visited the site last week, but briefly then, so this is taken from the southwestern site corner, looking across the site along Hampton Avenue. From the same viewpoint, we see the residential developments, existing homes opposite the site to the south of Hampton Avenue. Looking across the site from a broadly similar viewpoint, we see the rotunda and the Serpentine Shopping Centre at slightly higher land level to the northwest. To the east, we have commercial development, which is accessed largely via London Road, which includes a public house, an existing discount food store, and you'll see the grey building there is a health club. So there's one of the existing accesses into the site, which is proposed to be stopped up and a revised access formed fairly close thereby. And then in the north-eastern corner of the site, we see an existing stub access on Ashbourne Road, which leads to the A15 Serpentine Road roundabout. And looking from that viewpoint across the site, we see it's largely flat and has been cleared for some time from its previous commercial brickworks related uses. Opposite the site to the southeast, we see the Cranberry Court Retirement Complex. And then just running through the proposed development, here we have the proposed site layout, which is 3 commercial units on the left-hand side, and then the fourth one, Unit 4, is a proposed food store. We have car parking proposed for each of the commercial units sitting between Hampton Avenue and the buildings themselves, with their servicing and goods vehicle access to the rear of the units between the buildings and the shopping centre car park. The retail unit on the right-hand side would have its own dedicated car parking access from both Ashbourne Road and the A15 roundabout, and from Hampton Avenue to the south. In terms of the architectural appearance of the buildings, I've just run through these elevations, which are self-explanatory. So this is the largest unit on the western portion of the site. There's some sections here, so a large open space for the warehouse unit, and then some ancillary offices over 2 stories closest to Hampton Avenue. That's the floor plan thereof, and that's the ancillary offices floor plans. Sitting adjacent to that are units 2 and 3, a similar style of architecture, a similar bulk, scale and massing, and similar uses in terms of an open floor plate, largely with ancillary offices on a mezzanine level. Finally, we come to the proposed discount food store. Members, to be clear, the operator of the food store has not been identified by the applicant, although they are in advanced discussions with Lidl, I'm led to believe, and this is a standard store format and design for Lidl. That's the sales floor plan. In terms of landscaping, some opportunities for new landscaping across the site, although limited, focused largely on additional tree and shrub planting alongside Hampton Avenue and along Ashbourne Road, with limited opportunities for landscaping within the site itself. The applicant has provided some computer-generated images. So this is from largely the first viewpoint where you saw the photographs initially. This is looking eastwards along Hampton Avenue, and we can see Unit 1 to the left-hand side, with Units 2 and 3 beyond. And then from the opposite end of the site, so standing opposite the existing health club, if you like, on Hampton Avenue, we see the proposed discount food store in the foreground with the commercial units behind. So in terms of your principal considerations today, members, they're all set out in the reports clearly, but these are around the principle of development and the uses which are acceptable in principle within the urban extensions. The highways-related effects of the proposed development, including a proposed mitigation, and that proposed mitigation is to make the Hampton Avenue junction onto the A15 London Road a left turn exit only, so that would be to ban right turn movements from Hampton Avenue southbound on the A15. The visual impact of the proposed development is important consideration, as is neighbour and amenity, including but not limited to noise and disturbance, the effect of goods vehicle movements, outlook and the visual impact from adjacent residential properties, potential light pollution, and also antisocial behaviour has been raised by a number of respondents in association with the adjacent leisure centre car park and antisocial vehicle related movements there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your presentation. We have 6 people registered to speak on this item. Please can I ask Councillor Wiggin and Sharp, Ward Councillors and Judy Aston, Hampton Parish Council representatives to address the committee. You will have 10 minutes between you in which to address the committee. The Senior Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and then when the time has lapsed. When you are ready, if you can please switch on your microphones and start speaking. Thank you. Behind there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow members. I'm setting out the case for refusal of this application on a number of grounds. That the principal development isn't met under LP 4, 5 and 12 of the local plan and paragraph 135 of the MPPF. Further, that the impacts of the development are not compliant with LP 13 and 14 in relation to transport and infrastructure, as well as the LP 17 amenity provision. Excuse me. Hampton Avenue is a strategic and principal access and egress route into Hampton. As I'm sure members experienced on the site visit, the junction with the A15 forms a key development impact change. From the retail leisure units of Costa, Vivacity and the Mulberry Tree pub, clearly bordering the Axley Road, transitioning on a defined line to the residential development along the south side of Hampton Avenue. Due to history, there was no approved development brief for this parcel of land, as the officer report outlines. and so it cannot be determined as a general employment area where classes B1, B2 and B8 could be supported. Hence, this application for Class E is, I believe, outside of the local plan and cannot be claimed to be directly required by residents required under the Planning Act. LP4 states a number of criteria for considering other employment proposals, including there is a clear demonstration that there are no suitable or appropriate sites within the existing settlement. With vacant land and empty units on Signet Park, this is not the case. The scale of the proposal is commensurate with the scale and character of the existing settlement. Clearly, I think you can see from the plans this isn't the case. There is no significant adverse impact on the character and appearance of the area and or amenity of neighbouring occupiers. Clearly, from the plans, there is. There are no significant adverse impacts on the local highway network, as I think my colleague to my left will come on to. There most certainly is, as seen from the transport assessment. And finally, the proposals maximise opportunities for modal shift away from the private car. Clearly, they don't. Hence, the application fails to meet LP 4, 5 and 12 of the plan. The definition of Class EG3 is noted in the introduction. However, the overarching statement of the Planning Act is that it must be a use that can be carried, and I quote, carried out in a residential area without detriment to its amenity. Clearly, this is not the case. Referring specifically to the food store element, in relation to LB12, I would direct members to the Council-appointed Retail Consultant Report. This has not been adequately summarised in the committee report, as it clearly struggles to support the application. In fact, it states, I quote, "We remain of the view that the applicant has failed to demonstrate compliance with the sequential test. Further, the evidence they were asked to review provided by the applicant is limited to the immediate area along Hampton Avenue and Eagle Way. It would not be unreasonable to expect a wider consideration, such as Signet Park or east of the A15. Within the same report, the consultant highlights a number of concerns with the data sources for the impact assessment, quoting, "We have been provided with very little information," and also quoting, "A major problem is we have identified a number of issues with the responses." They also note in conclusion, and I quote, "We do not consider the results of the assessment can be relied on. The failure to demonstrate compliance with the impact test is at best a negative factor when considering the planning merits." The applicant has also failed to demonstrate need, something that was outstanding from the pre-application. Specifically relating to the food store, there is already a Tesco Extra, Aldi, Marks and Spencer's food store and Co-op, all within immediate walking distance to, or in fact within 100 metres, along with other local Hampton stores, including One Stop and Premier. So it is impossible to see how the introduction of another, especially without the noted public transport and cycling provision, can be a benefit to Hampton residents or the wider economy. Any claims of competition benefit are at best optimistic. Turning to LP 13 and 14, and specifically considering the transport impacts, the proposal simply does not meet some of the principal requirements to comply with the local plan, regarding the need to travel, especially by car, prioritising bus use, etc. Pages 14 to 16 of the officer report demonstrates a lack of information provision, and I urge members to study those pages carefully. Just one example is the under-provision of parking for the retail unit and the condition C26 to cover this, suggesting the use of the adjacent commercial units parking. Even the applicant has refused to accept this condition in their correspondence of the 19th of January 2024. It is clear this will spill out onto Hampton Avenue, where there are currently only 10 parking bays on the north side, leading to unacceptable dangers to all road users. The proposed left-hand turn the officers are referred to, exiting Hampton Avenue, is of course a sensible suggestion. However, members should note that there have been discussions of this between War Council's highways officers long before the application. There was a need to consider this even before the significant added traffic resulting from the proposal before you. Further, this assessment does not consider the impact of the roundabout to the north, which will not only pick up this extra traffic, but also the HGV and other vehicle access to the new road to the warehousing units. I know the committee takes due consideration of the comments of residents and other key stakeholders, and the number of sensible objections should not be ignored. Disappointingly, unlike for other residential developments being considered further along Hampton Avenue, no engagement has been received from the applicant throughout the process. The principal theme of these is the loss of amenity from the overbearing nature of the warehousing, including the impacts from 24-hour noise and light emitters, all reasons for a failure to comply with LP 17. Should we be turning a clear residential area into an industrial warehouse? No, we shouldn't. This is totally out of keeping and wholly unfair on neighbouring estates.
Sorry, through you, just to let you know, halfway through.
Thank you. It does not take too much imagination to picture how out of keeping the development on the north side with Class E commercial units would be within this natural boundary of the Hampton Avenue A15 junction. Let me be clear, as members of the committee will be aware, I, like most of them, support growth and development, but it has to be justifiable. If this was a residential development keeping the location or a commercial development supporting residents in line with the LP5, then I would not be speaking today. We need housing and supporting infrastructure such as doctors and dentists on land such as this, not warehousing, and hence I'd urge the committee to carefully review the points laid out and refuse the application.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Sharp shares a lot of the same concerns as I do. He's already outlined them very succinctly. I just wanted to continue on the transport theme. So I do not believe that the proposed changes to the scheme and the conditions and the Section 106 agreement are sufficient to mitigate the increase in traffic, especially given the aim of policy LP13 and the local plan is to reduce the need to travel, especially by car. There is the T-junction at Hampton Avenue. There is also a T-junction very close to that, which feeds into the current Aldi superstore. This road regularly at peak times is over capacity. Local residents complain to us as ward councillors about how often they're stuck in traffic. This week, the front page of the Peterborough Telegraph was unacceptable, and that's referring to traffic on the Serpentine due to the loss of a lane due to roadworks, which are due to increase the capacity. But this shows that any small change to the traffic flow in Hampton has catastrophic effects on the ability of Hampton residents and those from beyond the Hampton Township to move around the area. I do not believe any development of this size should take place until either London Road is doubled or the Nature's Way Link Road is completed. Now, at present, we are unclear what the triggers are. We've asked colleagues in the council to confirm this, and I was speaking to the deputy leader yesterday, and he confirmed he's been unable to get hold of this information. So until either of these routes are built, which will alleviate the traffic flow towards Great Haddon and Yaxley, London Road between the Serpentine and Eagle Way is unable to cope with the level of traffic that would be provided by this application, the 200 plus additional car movements it's projecting to bring forward. I'm pleased that from my initial comments, the traffic from Great Haddon and Yaxley were taken into account, but as I've just outlined, until further mitigation is in place in the form of much larger road projects rather than just tinkering with what's there, the infrastructure at present cannot safely and reasonably accommodate this application. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Members, do we have any questions?
So we've still got Jodie
Oh,
to
you've
speak.
still got time, have we? Yeah, got 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, all. So I'll be very quick. Good afternoon. The Parish Council are unanimous in objecting this application, as Councillor Sharp and Councillor Wiggin have stated numerous reasons as to why, so I won't repeat them again. Many residents living close to this application have also concerns regarding this application, and as a Parish Council, we support our residents in objecting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, back to members. Members, do you have any questions? Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sharp, it mentions in this in the report about the Horsey Toll planning application, which you was one of the signatures for the call-in because of shortage of employment land in Peterborough. Could you tell the committee why you think this time it's acceptable to refuse this, you want this application refused, because although it is employment land, you think it's acceptable to be refused?
Application was a completely different application. The layout was different. Yes, as you say, has a similar debating point around the need for industrial units and industrial land. There was a distinct barrier at Horsey Toll from the stand ground area and local population and local housing. The layout that you can see on the screens above you is clearly and completely different. You have warehousing. Horsey Toll was an out of area proposed development. The planning objections that I have raised here are wholly materially different, and I think carry water, whereas those didn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Harper.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Sharp, to pick on you again. You said it it deviates from the local plan, but unfortunately I didn't get all what you said. Would you mind just repeating how you see this as deviating from the local plan, just so I've got it right? Thank you.
No problem at all, Councillor Harper. Yes, it's because, it might be for officers to clarify that further, but because for some unknown reason, because this area was designated to be originally to be the town centre for Hampton, a low-scale development of retail and commercial units in terms of leisure. It wasn't included in the original development plan, so it's not designated in the development plan for the area, so effectively sits outside of the local plan.
Councillor Casey?
Yes, Councillor Sharp, you mentioned the sequential test, and I think what you said seems to be at odds with what it says in the report, but you made reference to a document. I'm just wondering, for our understanding, so that we can ask officers about that, can you just cover that again, please?
Sure, no problem, Councillor Casey. Yes, there's the planning officers employed a commercial assessment of the retail element, and they produced a report which is available obviously on the website, and it's within there that they make comments and references to the sequential test not having been met.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? Thank you. You may now return to the public gallery, if you've got one.
Councillor Sharp needs to stay until we take the vote.
You could stay there, yeah. You could stay until we get the vote. Thank you. Now, can I ask Tony Edwards, objector, to address the committee? You will have 5 minutes in which to address the committee. The Senior Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and then when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can please switch on your mic and start speaking. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Council. I've come to speak on behalf of the residents of Cranberry Court. I'd like to start off by saying that we all agree it's not wanted or needed. Surely Hampton Avenue is a residential area. Surely the road is not suitable for the extra vehicles and HGV noises. I would also like to point out that people park their large vans and LGVs in the laybys every weekend without fail because they don't leave them at work and live in the area. This is every weekend. If I go and visit my mother, I can't park on the street. That's one of my main concerns, because it'll only get worse. Where are we? Yes. Even the Highways Commission say the main London road will be overused and at peak times come to a standstill, which happens now, especially with other roadworks going on. It also mentions about the new development further up London Road. Yaxley, people are going to come from Yaxley. They only have a co-op there. They're going to come to Peterborough down that road. It's not just the Serpentine, it's further out of town, and they'll also come the other way, which I don't think is acceptable. Where are we? Yes. Talk right to light. I know it's not an actual right to light, but my mother will face, and a lot of other residents will directly face Lidl's, and all they'll see is a great big factory. That's all they'll see, is a factory. Instead of nice green or houses, the houses will be nowhere near as high as what that is, nowhere near it. If it's changed, again, the gentleman says we haven't got a doctor's surgery, we haven't got a dentist. There's nothing in Hampton around that area. So I do believe that this should be shelved. I'm losing my track. Right. It also says in your write-up for the development, walking and cycling use people that walk and shop. They will walk and go by bicycle. You stand outside any supermarket and anybody that walks in, comes out, gets a taxi because they can't carry all their shopping. You've only got to any supermarket, it's full of taxis because those that walk pay for taxis back home with their shopping. Hampton Avenue is also the main access for the school opposite on London Road. So first thing in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all the children will cross London Road, walk up the main Hampton Avenue to go home. That's another item I brought up. Pedestrian crossing would help along Hampton Avenue, because even there's not one there at all. If you build this, nobody will be able to get across. There's no footpath to get to all the other shops around, Krispy Kremes, no, there's nothing there. There's no footpath to go from Cranberry Court to walk around to any of those shops at all. Nothing. And what else have I got? And the other main thing, turning right onto London Road as it is now is an absolute disaster. And you also find that when you get lorries coming, they'll see that and they'll turn straight into Hampton. They won't go round the back, they won't know where to go. They'll all start coming down Hampton Avenue to start. They might get later on, but to start with, so the absolute traffic is the main reason. The traffic and the housing is certainly not, I don't think it's suitable at all. I really don't. That's my main concern. And for anybody that doesn't know, and I don't know if anybody's seen it, I found this morning. It's already being advertised, so I'll pass it around and let you have a look. It's all been advertised, even let. Now, if they haven't got planning permission, why on earth are they doing all this? Why are they spending thousands and thousands of pounds developing all this? It's there, to let. Some are already let. It says on there's 4 commercial estate agents advertising this, and it's still grass. So I'm a bit perturbed at that as well, Mr. Chairman. I think that's all I have to say, just to say that the residents are most upset about this. So all my mother's going to see out of her lounge window is little. She's worked all her life, retired, and that's the last thing she'll want to look at. I'm going to show you that now. And that's about all I have to say, Mr. Chair. I've said my piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for addressing the committee. Members, do we have any questions? No? In that case, if you could just go and take a seat in the public gallery. Thank you. Now, can I ask Matt Sladen, Sporter Developer, and Sophia Durry, the agent, to address the committee? You will have 5 minutes between you in which to address the committee. The Senior Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left, and then when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can, please switch on your microphone and start speaking. Thank you.
Hi everyone. We purchased this site originally in 2016 and then a second tranche in 2017. It was originally purchased and marketed for office use, and since that time and a considerable range of other uses. The scheme before the planning committee is the only scheme in that time that's generated any interest from occupiers, and also provides a deliverable scheme that generates employment into Hampton and the wider Peterborough area. Throughout the planning process, we've worked through with the case officer to evolve the scheme to try and make it an acceptable proposition to the area. We've evolved the design of the commercial units to try and be more sympathetic and in keeping with existing buildings, and we believe we've achieved this by developing elevational treatments to Hampton Avenue that include a palette of different materials and colours, and it will break up any potential issues with linearity along the front of Hampton Avenue. The site layout has been designed to ensure that units are significantly set back from the road, and this is done in part by the car parking to the front, and then further shielding from hedgerow and trees to the front of Hampton Avenue. So this, in addition to the materials of the actual buildings, will hopefully soften and break up the units to people walking down the road or living opposite. A further benefit of this approach means that the yard areas of the employment units are at the rear elevation of the unit with a dedicated access off the Serpentine roundabout via an extension of Ashbourne Avenue. This means that there will be no HGV access to the scheme from Hampton Avenue, and it will only be car traffic and pedestrians accessing the units from here. The above design approach means that the buildings themselves provide significant screening from any noise transfer that may be in the yards, and the noise survey submitted as part of the application demonstrated that all the noise will go back towards the district centre and the landscaping at the back rather than forwards, and they're available on the planning portal. Throughout the consultation, we have worked with our highways engineers and obviously Peterborough City Council and their highways engineers to ensure that any additional traffic generated would not significantly increase the traffic levels experienced on the network already. As was mentioned, it is likely Lidl that's going to take this store, and this design is specific to their requirements. And the majority of the trips that will be generated to this store are people that will be visiting the existing stores in the area, such as Tesco and Aldi. Aldi itself significantly overtrades, so they have their predictions and they're 150% ahead of the amount of people they would expect to come to this store, and that's just because of the growth in Hampton and Great Haddon. So a number of those will come to this little site if it is granted permission. As part of the design process and consultation with the City Council, we've ensured that the parking provision for the whole scheme is sufficient. The Lidl has just 148 spaces. The Aldi, for comparison, has 97. So significantly less than our store. We are relocating the access points to Hampton Avenue. These will be blocked up and obviously made good to match in with the existing street. As part of that, we do move parking bays on Hampton Avenue. There are 10 parking bay goes down there, you know, and they stop their car because it will be a privately owned road. We will have the ability to ticket them, so that will prevent people there. All the car parks have got bollard access, so out of our hours, bollards will be pulled up, so no access to the car
Through you,
parks.
Chair. You have 30 seconds remaining.
And the yards have all got gates. There is a significant undersupply of space for the commercial units in Peterborough, and this is what has driven, in part, this scheme that has been put forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any question? Councillor Hogg?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. You say that you're limiting HGV access to the rear only, i.e. via Ashbourne Road, but clearly the Lidl site, what is going to stop HGVs turning up at the Hampton Avenue entrance to access the site?
For Lidl specifically, or... So what you can't see from this drawing is, so it's a bit, the car park makeup, and I know it's a different, you get different types of tarmac. So for Lidl, from their management position, they don't obviously want their delivery lorries coming through the main car park because they can have them at various points in the day. So they will have a management plan in place that will direct their HGV drivers that are all directly employed by Lidl themselves, that come out of their distribution facilities, because there's one down on Gateway, I think it is, that they will put in their plan to tell them the route that they have to take, which will be via Ashbourne Avenue in the back. And then on one of the drawings that is submitted, you can see the build-up of the tarmac show where they differentiate their lorries and where they can go specifically to stop them going through the main car park and onto Hampton Avenue, because obviously they don't want that interaction with their customers.
Just one further question. And the fact that you've got two entrances, one on either road, what's to stop if there is a, you know, as we've been told, London Road does get snarled up from time to time. What is going to stop people using the little car park as a rat run through to the likes of McDonald's and KFC from Hampton, rather than going the correct way, which would be via London Road?
From Lidl's point of view, obviously they're not going to want to have people using their car park as a rat run, so they're going to have to, it will be a management issue that they have to deal with as the operator of the store. There is obviously the potential that people could do that, but realistically the vast majority of people are going to continue out. If they're going to McDonald's, they may choose to go that way if the traffic is that bad, yes.
So there is no plan to restrict people using it as a rat run?
Well, there'll be bollards at either entrances, as I said, so if Lidl would be expected to operate those out in and out of hours to prevent access through the site, But obviously the onus would be on them to maintain that operation of the bollards in place to stop the rat running.
No, no, you can't contribute. No, you've had your say. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you. You may now return to the public gallery. Now, members, do you have any questions for officers? Councillor Hogg.
Well, I suppose the same question applies to officers. It deeply concerns me that essentially if you have got a busy London road, it may well be that residents from other parts of Hampton will use that as an access point to the other units on Ashbourne Road, like McDonald's and KFC and the donuts and maybe even the gym. I don't know. It's going to increase the traffic through that road rather than people maybe using, well, as they should be, using London Road to access those sites.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, through you then. Councillor Hall, thank you. If I direct you to condition 26 in terms of the recommendations, we recommend that a car park management scheme needs to be submitted to and approved by the council prior to the first use of the retail store. And one element therein would require an automated system which monitors the number of vehicles who are going through the car park. And if that reaches a pre-agreed unacceptable level, then the operator will need to put measures in place to prevent those through movements.
So we can't, for instance, ask them to block off the Ashbourne entrance, but only for when they get their HGV deliveries, for instance, so that it stops car access to that site.
The proposed Ashbourne Road extension would remain private within the applicant's ownership and control. It would be within the committee's gift to impose an additional condition that essentially specified what you have just described. That will be in committee's gift.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Chair. The Orsitol planning application, because of it was refused, council went to outside to seek outside views from solicitors, and it came back and said that it was proven that there was insufficient shortfall of employment land in Peterborough. Is the planning department's hands tied now with this planning application, that if they was to refuse this, it would also come under the same remit as that there is insufficient employment land in Peterborough, that there could be likelihood that if the applicant went to appeal, it could cost the council a lot of money?
Chair, thank you. We're going through you, if I may. Thank you, Councillor Rush. We've got a slightly different starting point here in that policy LP4, which is our basis for employment land supply choices, is very clear that the urban extensions are a preferable location for employment development. And the situation at Horsey Bridge was that land lay outside the city's development limit in the open countryside. So the policy starting point there was a no, whereas the policy starting point here for employment is a yes. So it's not the same starting point, if you like, but nonetheless, you are, I believe, quite right in that it is a material consideration that there was an identified shortfall of employment land in the city, identified with the Horsey Bridge application, and that this scheme, being a preferable location for employment, ought to come forward to help address that shortfall.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I'd like to hear a little bit more from Highways regarding their feel for what has already been mentioned, the issue with Hampton Avenue and the amount of traffic that's going in and entering effectively whatever this superstore Lidl is. I'm happy with things like the left turn at the end, I accept that. But mention of HGVs coming the wrong way, okay, that could be covered by whoever Lidl's travel plan. I'm not I take the sort of like what the two councillors have said, that this doesn't really sort of like go towards sustainable travel routes. It's basically going to be very car busy, the actual shop itself. The industrial units, I think Councillor Rush has brought up something very interesting, but I don't see a big issue with traffic. But from Highways' point of view, are you 100% convinced that this won't cause major traffic problems on that road? And should we not consider, I want to put words in your mouth, should we not consider that only the entrance from the roundabout end, Ashbourne Road, is used? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I'll start answering that question for the councillor, and then I might need to pass over to my colleague who deals with the traffic modelling elements of the review. In terms of the use of Ashbourne Road instead of Hampton Avenue for access to these sites, that isn't something that's been applied for and therefore isn't something that's been assessed. So we wouldn't know the impact that that may have on the network and whether that would be more or less of an issue than the application that we've got before us. In terms of the application we've got before us, as I say, my colleagues have reviewed the transport modelling and the mitigation measures proposed. I will let Ross add a bit more onto that just to explain the considerations that he's been through.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So yes, that is correct. We have received modelling that looks at that mitigation measure and the impact it would have in terms of what it will achieve compared to without that mitigation. And yes, for the Hampton Avenue junction onto the A15, it does provide relief. It does create a situation where that junction operates within capacity. However, there are obviously more strategic elements to this study area, such as the Serpentine A15 London Road roundabout, which currently, based on the modelling presented to us, would still operate over capacity, despite having that left turn only mitigation measure at Hampton Avenue. And so there would remain some capacity issues within the network that would be left unaddressed. However, it should be noted that there are ongoing discussions with the developers at Great Haddon, whereby, and it's been alluded to previously, that there's discussions around off-site highway mitigations relating to Nature's Way and the A15 London Road corridor. So there is potential for relief from those mitigation measures which are outside of this application.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up? Yep. Go ahead.
Yes, I do, Chair, and through you. You say there's a possibility of relief. I need you to sort of convince me that you are convinced that that relief would materialise if that road opened.
So at present, those mitigation measures relating to Great Haddon for Nature's Way and the A15 London Road, there's no sort of concrete proposals at this present moment in time. However, there are active discussions on those. So I can't provide you any confidence that those will 100% materialise, but there is a possibility that they may come forward and therefore help relieve some of the congestion that we see today and potentially in the future on that A15 London Road corridor.
Thank you, thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Chair. It's this sequential statement that came from Councillor Sharp. I'd just like officers' response to that and how we can have those two conflicting views.
Thank you, and as ever, through you, Chair. If we look at Policy LP16, the approach to new retail provision in the city is very clear. You start in the city centre, and if it can't go there, it goes in one of the defined districts or local centres. And so that is the question which our retail consultants focused on, is there a sequentially preferable location for this food store? Not can it go anywhere else in the city, but is there a better location that will be more policy compliant? And essentially that means looking at the district centre and local centre locations. Let me just get those up. So is there a sequentially preferable location for this food store within the Serpentine Green Centre? And our consultants say no, there is not. And the second question, is there a sequentially preferable location for this food store in one of the local centres? So we're looking essentially at the Eagle Way local centre. Now there is a vacant site at the Eagle Way local centre. It is not big enough for the footprint of a convenience food store, a discount convenient food store such as this. So that was discounted by the retail consultants. The second question then we must ask ourselves is, if we are minded to accept retail development outside one of these sequentially preferable locations, is there sufficient trade to support that additional floor space, i.e. would a new Lidl or other food store in this location result in the closure of the Aldi or the Tesco or the Marks and Spencer or the Co-op? And the retail consultants again have focused on that question and are satisfied that there is sufficient retail spend to support this additional floor space, not least because of the additional residential development that we see going on the east side of the A15 at Hampton. So the retail consultants are relaxed that there will be no harm to existing food stores.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question? Okay. Any further questions?
Yeah,
Councillor
sorry,
Hall.
Chair. I have another one for officers. Councillor Sharp mentioned it wasn't within the local plan. Could you comment on that, please? I tried to explain it more for me, which I accept. But I just wondered from your viewpoint, is it or isn't it? Because it seemed to be that this different, whether it be a B and E and all the rest of it.
Thank you, and as normal, Chair, through you. We need to start with policy LP4 on employment. I'm just flicking to that. Policy LP11, forgive me, let's get to it. And it says employment development will be mainly focused in the city centre, elsewhere in the urban area, within GEAs and the business parks, and in the urban extensions. So my advice is that this is very clearly in accordance with the spatial strategy of LP4, and that is your starting point.
Thank you. Yep. Yes, please do, please do.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. Just to answer one of your previous questions, Councillor Harper, in terms of what is the likelihood of Nature's Way connecting up via Great Haddon to the A15, we can never give a 100% guarantee, you know, in terms of we don't know what the economic situation is going to be in 5-10 years or whatever, but I would say there's a reasonable possibility that it will happen, given the pace of development that we're seeing at the moment in Great Haddon. We've got a steady stream of applications coming in. It's various stages of it are being built out at a reasonable pace. So, yeah, there is a reasonable possibility.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay, in that case, if we've got no further questions, who's going to start the debate? Councillor Harper.
Yes, I don't mind kicking it off. Thank you, Chair, through you. I think we've set precedent when it comes to the employment side of this, and there is a need that the committee accepted on legal advice. So it would be wrong to go away from that now. We have to have we have to deal with what we've got. The shop gives me real problems. Purely because of traffic. Hampton Avenue, again, it's just the traffic that worries me at the moment, the amount of people that are coming that way. And then also, as Councillor Hogg mentioned, and I'm sure he'll mention again, this shortcut. If there was a problem on the A15, say where that left turn is going to be, only left turn, then you can imagine the people coming from either direction towards that serpentine roundabout will think, I know what I'll do, I'll cut through. And there was mention of the bollards could be controlled during the day and the night. Well, I just can't see that's feasible at all. So I'm happy with it that they could close that car park at night, and that must be, in my view, a condition if this is passed, that it must close out of operating hours. 2 reasons: 1, to stop the shortcutting, and 2, to stop the cruising, spinning around in cars and something, which we know is a problem in the area, so we need to stop that sort of thing. I really wanted to be convinced by Highways that relief would come sooner rather than later. But again, even with officers' sort of assurance, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. So I'll wait to be convinced. I think the shop is probably needed and certainly that's what consultants are saying. The industrial area is needed, so we're told, and legal have told us. I'd like to hear what others have got to say about this traffic problem, but I need to be convinced on that at the moment. So I've not made a decision yet, but I'd like to hear what others have to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. Councillor Hogg?
Thank you, Chair. So as far as the industrial units are concerned, I understand that they are kind of quite a block, but ultimately, you've got the gym that presents quite a block there anyway. So I'm more comfortable with those. I think that the use of Ashbourne Road to bring commercial vehicles in to service those units means that it keeps it away from the residential area. And I would argue that the car parking at the front of those units, means that those units can be set back off the road a bit further, which is the reason they've done that. But the car parking for the staff or whatever that will be working in the units will present minimal car movements, and certainly if you were to use that land for housing, there would be far more car movements onto Hampton Avenue because of that development. So I really don't think that they present the issue that maybe some residents think that they might do. But as I've already kind of voiced, I do have a concern about this retail store, specifically around the car movements backwards and forwards through that site. And I'm in two minds really. I think that there can't be both entrances open all the time, is the point. And either the Ashbourne Road entrance has to be for HGV only, so it is basically barriered off until such time as they have a delivery, and then the barriers are open for the delivery to come in. Or it needs to be closed off at the Hampton end, and maybe a double width entrance onto Ashbourne Road would be my preferred option. Now I realise that to a certain degree the latter of that is not something that's before us. The former of which we could possibly put a condition in that says that needs to be barriered off and is only to be used for HGV deliveries. So I would be very interested to see what other colleagues on the committee have to say on that proposal as to whether or not I bring that forward.
Thank you. Councillor Jamil?
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy with the industrial units. Once again, the retail store is causing me worry. But then when I think if you're a large company, Aldi, Lidl, wherever, would you really want to risk upsetting your customers by having two-way traffic? And I think, that they're professional enough to be able to work that out themselves. We've had some reassurance from the developers that, that they would do that. But then why would you upset your customers by having both ways? But I would also be more convinced if we can maybe put a condition in, like Councillor Hogg is saying. But it doesn't worry me to that great extent, because I think if I was them, I would do that myself, just to stop their own customers from being, there'd be less hassle for them then. So I'm quite happy to go with it, with Officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Warren?
I'm pretty much leaning the same things. When I looked at this plan, I had quite a few of issues and concerns, especially with what the councillors have raised. And I think after the questions that were asked with the officers, it's kind of alleviated all of them. I have those concerns with the highways. I don't have any problems with the warehouse, but I do have concerns with the highways situation, and I kind of look at the conditions of what's going on. And with the through roads, I do believe that with the conditions that are put in this plan, that will alleviate the conditions. I'm kind of minded on balance to go for it. I do have concerns on the congestions with the highways, but on balance, I will go with the application. I'm granting the request.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Rush first. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I think we've been proven that we can't do anything about the warehouses and shops because of past experiences. I do find about the traffic, you look on the map, you see Ashbourne Road, it's a road leading to nowhere. So years ago, that must have been on the thoughts of somebody that would lead on to that piece of land. And I'm just sorry that can't be used for delivery lorries and blocked off when it's when it's not a delivery lorry. So a bit undecided at the moment. I just think hope for that delivery lorries could use that entrance at the back there and not the front, and not be used for anything else.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Councillor Jones.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. It's been said before, and I'll say it again, is just because you don't like something doesn't mean to say that you can't approve it. What we have in front of us, I was minded when I went on the site visit last week. It was a reasonably open and shut case. I think there's been some cogent arguments against it, and I've listened to those, and of course it does make you sort of, debate whether this is a good thing. And I think the only thing that's that's a bit of a sticking point, and it's cut with 2 or 3 other people, is the traffic, is obviously ingress and egress to the site. And I think Councillor Jamil summed it up, is on this particular occasion, as far as the warehousing is concerned, there's housing on the... Would I prefer it to be housing? Yes, but that's not before us. It's warehousing. I'm comfortable with it on balance. The same thing with the little food store. I think I'm minded to go with it on the understanding that there are sufficient conditions in place that traffic is that they are professional enough to not upset the people that are here today persuading us that it shouldn't go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any further debate? Councillor Harper.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And through you, and obviously I wanted to hear what others had to say, my colleagues. I'm not convinced, I'm afraid. I think had the entrance onto Hampton Avenue been pedestrian only, for instance, so rather than cars, and Ashbourne Road was the model that had been put forward and had a look at, where cars and this happens at other stores. I can name Aldi's that have only got one entrance very close by. I think to push them onto that serpentine roundabout would be the better option for me, but that's not what's before us. So because it's not before me, and the only option I've got is that southerly entrance onto Hampton Avenue, I would not support this going ahead. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hogg.
Sorry, Chair. Just to kind of firm up my position on this, I think after consideration that I would like to see a condition placed on the Ashbourne Road entrance being blocked other than for HGV ingress and egress for delivery purposes, because I am worried that it will be turned into a rut run, and people that would use that as a rep run are essentially going to be driving through that car park potentially at speed, and there is, you know, the potential for danger in that regard. So that would be my my only way of being able to push this forward, if I'm being honest. I mean, one of the good things about this, at least we can get rid of that removal van at the end of that's been sat there forever and a day, which is, I'm sure, a bane of everybody's existence. I just thought I'd mention that to alleviate some of the...
Any further debate? Right, I'm going to say something now. I think she said she's going to come in a bit later. You want to speak now? Okay, on.
Just to add, Chair, I think it's important for the minutes to note what has just happened in terms of a piece of paper being passed, but Councillor Harper not reviewing the paper and passing it straight back to the person. I think it'd be helpful if we can clarify that in the minutes.
Chair, going on from that, I was going to ask that in a minute, but thank you very much for that. Could I have my some advice from the legal officer on my standing there, whether I can take part in the vote? Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any particular reason why not. A piece of paper was passed to you. You didn't look at it. You're sitting right next to me. It was passed straight back. I can't see a reason in particular why you can't take part in the vote.
Thank you. Right, members. I think in principle we agree with the scheme, and I think the only issue we have is a traffic issue. I think it would be a shame that we go against it just on that issue. However, I think Councillor Hogg has given a suggestion, a remedy, where we ask for a condition to be imposed, which I am quite comfortable with. And considering that in mind, what do members think? What should we? And then I think we'll have to take some advice whether that is possible or not.
So thank you, Chair. A condition is possible. I'm very mindful, though, that closing that northern access to customer traffic hasn't been modelled by the local highway authority. So I'm going to ask the local highway authority if they've got any additional advice for you on that.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Yeah, it's unfortunately, yes, it hasn't been modelled. We couldn't advise you as to what the implications on the highway would be of applying such a condition. In principle, it's something that could be looked at, but the modelling would need to be done to make sure it's not going to further congest the existing, the issues already existing at the Serpentine roundabout.
Right, in that case, would this matter be deferred? Is that an option for us, or would members be comfortable with that? Councillor Hogg.
I just wanted to throw another option into the mix in terms of maybe having it as a one-way system, so it goes in at one entrance and out at the other entrance, and that might be a way of kind of evening out the flow between the two.
Sorry,
are we just doing this about condition, or are we still debating? Before I say anything.
We're debating it, but we just come to some sort of conclusion where if you could find a way, to get a condition imposed, whether this is possible or not.
I'm only going, from my point of view, I'm just going back to what we've heard from local councillors and local residents and the parish council, that this effectively is going to be serviced by vehicles nearly all the time. And there is no encouragement for people to come in any other form. So, for me, just opening or closing one entrance doesn't come away from that. It's still effectively most people are going to come by car. If you are going to close that north entrance, or you're considering it under condition, you're now forcing everything into that southern entrance, domestic cars, etc., which for me makes it even worse. So, obviously it's up to you, but I have to be careful.
I think officers wanted to say something, am I right? Or are you about the deferment, whether you could defer it or not?
It would just be going back onto what Councillor Hogg was saying about the one-way system. Again, that's something that would also need to be modelled before we could advise on whether it'd have a severe impact on the network or not.
Yes, please do.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, just to clarify that officers are recommending approval for the proposal as it stands at the moment. We don't consider that any further conditions are necessary. However, the suggestions that have been made by various members may work, but they would need further modelling, as our highway colleagues have suggested. So I think if members were going to go down the route of refusal, I think, as always, it's very difficult to refuse on technical highways matters unless you've got some compelling evidence to go against the Highways Authority. However, if members did feel that they wanted to explore whether a condition could potentially allay their fears, then yeah, a deferral might be the best option to allow some further modelling to take place.
Thank you for that. Members, what's your view on that? Councillor Hogg.
So the situation as it stands is that if we were to, we talked with the developer, and the developer said that there was no plan in place if that is used as a rat run, and what they might or may not do. But potentially they could close one of the entrances off, which is essentially what I'm asking for. Is that, but ultimately we should really be looking at a proper solution. That, because I think everybody feels, or most people, anybody feel that the potential for this rat run existing is relatively high, and needs to be addressed in some shape or form, so that we don't have this, shouldn't be waiting for the situation to exist, because the probability of it happening, it seems to be quite high. So I think the referral back to highways to look at those options, whether or not it would be better to have one of the entrances closed off permanently, whether or not one of them needs to be closed off but only used for HGV, or whether or not a one-way system could be put in place in order to mitigate that situation. I think, plus the fact that it may well be that rather than, because at the moment you literally you could drive in at one entrance and you drive through the front of the store. It may be that cars have to go to the left and then go to the right, so they'd have to go all the way around the car park in order to go to this following entrance. That again may be something that maybe needed to be looked at. But as it stands, it just looks to me too dangerous.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Yes? Phil?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you. I think it would be very useful at this point for Mr Croucher, the case officer, to just go through the various elements of condition 26, which, following that explanation, members may or may not be satisfied that there is already sufficient mitigation via that condition to allay your fears. So through you, Chairman, I'm going to hand over to James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so let me just run you through this condition 26. It's quite lengthy. The first thing to point out that bullet point 1, our recommendation is deleted. There is no highway authority or applicant support for the overspill car parking element of condition 26. But the remaining elements, let me just run through those with you now. So there is no part of the development hereby approved shall be occupied until the car park management scheme has been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. The car park management scheme shall include, but not be limited to, an automated scheme which monitors vehicular through movements through the Unit 4 retail food store car park, including a proposed maximum number of allowable through movements on an hourly and a daily monitoring basis, and a mechanism for the closure of the car park through route in the event that the allowable through movements quantum is exceeded. And if we just pause on that, that could mean the instigation of a one-way system as described. It could be the gating off of the northern or the southern entrance as appropriate. It could be a one-way system within the car park itself, so that one has to circulate clockwise or anti-clockwise to defer those through movements and make them less attractive. It could mean the introduction of additional speed bumps within the car park to slow speeds right down, so that actually by the time you've gone down to 5-10 miles an hour to negotiate quite a few speed humps, it's quicker just to queue at the A15 and turn left. So there's a manner of remedies which are available to the applicant and to the local authority should this become a problem. And just moving through the rest of that condition just for completeness. Element 3 is the closure of the retail food store car park to all vehicles outside the approved opening hours. Element 4 is location of access control measures, including but not limited to gates or rising bollards, everything being set back 6 metres from the public highway. And then finally, a timetable for the provision of the car parking and turning and so on and so forth. And then the condition goes on to say no part of the development hereby approved shall be occupied other than in strict accordance with the approved car park management scheme. The approved car parking and turning, once provided in accordance with this condition, must thereafter be retained and not used for any other purpose other than the parking and turning of vehicles. So what we have tried to do is to build in these safeguards at this stage, not in anticipation of a problem, but as a remedy in case that problem manifests itself. Now, whether or not members consider that gives you sufficient comfort is for you to consider.
Thank you very much. I think that's very useful, actually.
Could I just say one more thing?
Oh, please do.
Thank you. Just one more thing. Just to remind members that paragraph 115 of the NPPF, it does say very clearly, development should only be prevented or refused on highways grounds if there is an unacceptable impact on highway safety, and that's not the case here. And 2, or the residual cumulative impacts on the road network would be severe, and the key word there is severe. And that's a high bar. So traffic congestion in itself or increased traffic doesn't necessarily mean severe. It's got to be, to put it in layman's terms, quite bad for it to pass that severity test. And our colleagues in the Highways Authority at the moment are saying that it's acceptable and it hasn't reached that threshold of severe. So that's something to bear in mind when making your decision. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I think your input is very useful. Councillor Casey.
Can I just ask, because in the update report it mentions an amendment to condition 26 on car park management. Does that affect what you've just said in reading out what was in the original report? I know they've asked. They've asked for requesting deletion of a means to allow use of not less than 22 parking spaces, and we've said that that's okay in that report. Well, in the update report, but would that materially affect what you've just said to us as a recommendation that things are covered?
Okay, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the update report is merely the deletion of bullet point 1 from condition 26, so it doesn't obviate the need for a car park management plan to be submitted or approved. It doesn't remove the requirement for the automated scheme for the vehicle through movements managing. It simply says that the 22 overspill spaces would no longer be required.
Thank you very much. I do apologise. We were supposed to have a debate, but we started asking officers questions. I think for openness and transparency and for a fair hearing, I'm up for it. I'm happy to ask questions because I've got to make a fair and proper decision, a robust decision. So thank you very much for your input. Now, members, after hearing the officers, there are 2 options for me. One is go with the officer recommendation, one going against it. After what they've said, I'm minded to go in favour of officer recommendation. Now, I think we've had enough debate on it. Anybody like to propose that? Councillor Jamil.
Chair, I propose that we go with officer recommendation.
Right, do you have a seconder? Councillor Jones? You happy to second? Right. Oh, do you want to come in again?
No, just...
Just want to state that. Yeah. Just for clarification purposes.
Just to clarify that your proposal to go with the officer recommendation is including the update paper and the amendments to conditions as well.
Thank you for that. Right, all in favour, raise your hands. Oh, you want to use cards? Okay. Is it green in favour? Yes. Here you go. Put your green card up.
2, 3, 4. Let's do it again, Chair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, Chair.
Okay, all against? And any abstentions?
Oh, sorry, 2 against, 1 abstention, Chair. So
Yep.
7 to 1, that's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 4.2.
Chair, can we have a 5-minute break before we start the next item?
Would you like to have a 5-minute break? Are we all in agreement of 5-minute break? Yep, please, yeah. 5-minute break, please. Thank you. Thank you. Is everybody back? All right, so we can make a start. It's item 4.2. Before I ask the officer to present the report to us, I'd like to read out a statement in the interest of the members. Right. Those of you who were members of the committee when the application was last considered on 17th of October 2023 will recall that the committee resolved to refuse planning permission. During the debate, the committee was satisfied that the use of the site for car storage and repairs was acceptable. We heard from ward councillors and local residents and saw on site that the use of the site did not impact on the community of residents who live nearby. We also saw that the use had generated a large number of jobs. However, the committee did have concerns about the use of the entrance at Dunvale Drive for commercial traffic, especially car transport, HGVs, and this was taking place on a daily basis. This was very different to the more sporadic traffic that local residents had experienced while the showground was in use. The impact on the amenity of residents from the intensification and change of character of vehicular traffic included HGV car transporters. That was a single issue upon which the committee resolved to refuse planning permission. Since the meeting, however, a decision notice has not been issued. Rather, having heard the committee's concerns, officers worked with the applicant to find a solution to the issues being experienced by residents living on Dunblane Drive and to retain the jobs on site. Members, you'll recall that the red line of the application included access from Joseph Odom Way, and questions were asked during the meeting as to why this could not be used. Officers have now investigated with the applicant whether the access to the car storage use could be changed to Joseph Odom Way, following a commitment by the applicant to provide amendment plans and traffic modelling and to demonstrate there would be no demonstrable harm in any other respect. A new set of proposals are brought before you for consideration which seek to overcome the previous reason for refusal. We have brought this application back to committee in as short a time period as possible. I hope this explains why the application is before you today. As this notice has not been issued, the application still remains live and the committee may make a fresh decision based on the new amended proposal. The case officer, Asif Ali, will now explain the nature of the proposal in more detail, together with the outcome of the additional consultation with highway and local residents that would undertook in assessing the amended proposal. Over to you, Asif Ali.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, the application is for the temporary change of use from the showground and exhibition hall to B8 car storage and distribution with ancillary car preparation and maintenance and installation of hard standing at the East of England showground. Just as a point of clarity here, from the previous application that came to the October committee, the temporary buildings has been removed from the application description and from the proposal because they've been removed now and are no longer part of the proposal. As part of the proposal, the arena is proposed to be converted to allow for the car preparation and maintenance. This would include painting, repairs, and prep work. The proposal is retrospective. The application form states that works began on site on the 1st of February 2023. The proposal has now been amended with the Dunblane Drive access removed from the application site and access secured by Gate 5 of Joseph Odom Way. The application site includes the arena and the adjacent buildings, as well as a portion of the wider showground site. The red edge also includes only one access, namely Gate 5 of Joseph Odom Way, right at the north of the site. The wider showground site is included within the blue edge to indicate that land is within the same ownership but not part of the application site. For clarity, the speedway track is not impacted by the current application and is not within the red edge before members. The green hatching shown on the application shows the extent of the plastic grid matting that is proposed to facilitate the car parking on the grassed areas. This is the proposed site plan showing the access. So the application proposes to use Gate 5 solely for the proposed development, with all other showground traffic accessing the site via Gate 0 and the Dunblane Drive access. Gate 5 is set away from the residential properties set on East of England Way and Arena Drive, and the access that runs alongside those residential properties on East of England Way is Gate 0. The proposal includes the conversion of the arena. In terms of external alterations, the main external changes will be the addition of chimneys through the roof of the arena building. These chimneys are associated with the paint booths and ovens inside the arena building. As members will know on site, these had a limited visual impact and were not prominent. This is the proposed internal layout of the arena. The applicant has confirmed that the booths and the fixtures within the arena building can be removed and the arena returned to its original state without the need for any significant work. This is a satellite image from 2023. The red edge demonstrates the extent of the application site. The car storage or parking areas shown impact is largely on the existing car park area and the open grass fields. The access to these car parking areas will be undertaken via the existing road network of the showground, as members would have noted on the site visit. This is an image showing Gate 5 and Gate 0. So just to clarify, Gate 5 is part of the application site and is the main access for the proposal. Gate 0 is not included within the application site. This is a satellite image of the application site. The revised scheme submitted after the October committee received a total of 62 objections, 46 within the original case officer report, and an additional 16 objections which are picked up in the update report. Some of the key issues raised by neighbours included the access being unsuitable, highway impact, the lack of neighbour consideration, the showground remaining a community and leisure hub, and other issues which are picked up within the case officer's report and addressed there. Some of the key facts from the application. So the proposal by the applicant requests 5 years, but officers have recommended the use ceases on the 17th of October 2026, which would be 3 years from the October committee date when it was originally considered before members. The access will be solely from Gate 5. There is 160 staff proposed. The operating hours which officers have recommended be secured by condition is 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and the total vehicle, the large car transport movement is 16 in and out, so that would be 16 movements per day. In terms of the update report, the officers would direct members' attention to condition 8 on the committee report. The further information was provided as part of the intervening period since the publication of the case officer report with regards dimensions and sizes of the mid-size transporters. And after consideration, the officers have amended condition 8 to slightly change the definition of a large car transporter to any vehicle capable of carrying 3 or more vehicles. So the large vehicle transporters would be the ones that would count towards the 16 car movements, the 16 car transporter movements per day. The specific reason for this condition is the potential impact on the local highway network, specifically with regards to the size of these larger transporters and taking up a larger amount of space on the local highway network. Pollution control officers raised no further comments. Neighbour objections which have been picked up, and the parish made comments supporting the conditions within the committee report and requested they are all included within the committee's decision. Just to summarize the application, some of the key considerations within the committee report, so albeit the parish council has made some comments within the update report, the parish has objected to the application, raising concerns relating to the proposed working hours, times within the log submitted not listing the delivery times. Gate 5 should be set further back to avoid a tailback of vehicles onto the highway. The temporary buildings have been removed and the drainage details to be provided. For clarity, the local lead flood authority initially raised an objection, but this was resolved prior to the issuing of the decision of the case committee report. Apologies. The local highways authority have raised no objection subject to conditions, and there have been no objections from National Highways, the conservation officer, the tree officer, the archaeological officer, the drainage team, environmental agency, and the wildlife officer. There have been no changes in officer considerations from the recommendation made to the October committee, but to summarize some of the key points, officers are still taking the view that the 3-year period for policy purposes LP30, which is the existing community or leisure facilities, and any redevelopment of an existing community or leisure facility would require meeting LP30. Some of the criteria there would be either providing replacement facilities or having relevant mitigation there. But officers have taken the view that the 3-year period is a temporary period that would not trigger the need to provide replacement facilities or for LP30 purposes. Similarly, officers have taken the view that the 3-year period, given the shorter temporary period, will not constitute a significant development as per the showground allocation policy, which is LP36, which requires a master plan for any significant development of the showground. Appropriate conditions have been attached onto the report with regards to the car transporter movements and a traffic management plan with regards specifically showground events and showground event traffic during events that are held at the same time as the proposed development, so specifically Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Because this hasn't been modelled, the proposed development alongside any events traffic has not been modelled. The Highways Authority recommended some measures to be put into place to ensure that there is no adverse impact on the local highway network. Officers have taken the view that there is no adverse design and character impact as per the October committee. And similarly, we've also considered the timing and secured the subject to the 6 a.m. start, officers have taken the view that there would be no adverse neighbour amenity impact. Some key conditions to just note. So condition 1 secures the temporary period. Condition 3 limits the use of gate 5 solely for vehicles associated with the proposed development. Condition 4 controls the operating hours. Condition 8, which has been updated via the update report, controls the number of large car transporter movements. And condition 9 requires a traffic management plan. Just on the trigger point of condition 9, this is either within 2 months of the start of this permission or 1 month before the next event to be held, whichever is sooner. That would be the trigger point for that traffic management plan. So to summarize, officers recommend, subject to the conditions within the committee report and the updated condition 8 within the update report, we would recommend approval.
Thank you for introducing the item. We had Councillor Knight as a registered speaker, and I understand that she no longer wishes to speak. Are there any other speakers? I mean, we did say that we had 5 people, but I don't think anybody's here. Okay, right, so then we could straightly go to Nick Harding, the agent, and Ashley Butterfield, Pamela Newbold and Mark Stitch, sports to address the committee. You will have 5 minutes between you in which to address the committee. The Democratic Services Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can please switch on your mic and start speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. I'm Ashley Butterfield, the CEO of AEPG, the applicant. With me are Pamela Newbold, AEPG Projects, Nick Harding, the planning agent for the application, and Mark Sitch, the planning agent for DHL Inside Track. Excuse me. We thank Committee for considering this revised proposal with a change of entrance to Gate 5 off Joseph Odom Way. We have addressed previous concerns regarding the access of this operation to the site and LP17 impact, and have reopened an old entrance gate, Gate 5, to facilitate the access to the site from the north, as discussed at the previous committee meeting, and made suggestions. This entrance has no direct neighbours and is well signposted and manned to ensure a smooth operation. We would like to thank the planning and the highways officers of the City Council for their support and guidance whilst facilitating this change to the scheme, and for working together to have the wording for Condition 8, which is both practical and easily managed. We recognise that for the residents, access from the north is a better solution, and AEPG and DHL have worked tirelessly to have this new entrance operational as quickly as possible, via removing fencing, having surfacing work completed, and cancelling an existing contract with another business. Use of this entrance began just over a week ago on and around the 12th of January, and has been operating smoothly since. We are pleased to note that no safety concerns have been raised regarding this new Highways team have confirmed the route is suitable. We are thankful for the recommendation for approval and Parish Orton Waterville's support with the proposed conditions, and we would like to reassure the committee that we are able to comply fully with the proposed planning conditions. DHL have been operational on just 18% of the showground for the last 10 months, with activity before this being site preparation work. The DHL operation employs 160 people, of which 32% live in the PE1 to PE8 postcodes, a rise of 10% since we were at committee in October. These jobs include skilled work such as vehicle technicians and auto body technicians. DHL have met with Tom Hennessy of PCC at Opportunity Peterborough and Tracy Meadows, Head of Skills and Employment at PCC, about ways to further engage with employment in the city, including DHL's apprenticeship programmes. We believe this global brand and operation brings significant benefit to the city. During events held at the showground, Joseph Odom Way was in use for around 288 days per year, 24 hours a day and unregulated. These were weekends, weekdays, bank holidays, and completely unpredictable. And as a business, of course, SGS would take bookings that would be profitable. DHL traffic, on the other hand, is 251 days per year, so less, with a Christmas slowdown, weekday only, and predictable and regulated timings under condition. As you have heard from both the case officer and from us, considerable work has been done to take on board all of the committee and residents' feedback, which we now believe means we present an application suitable for approval. We would be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Time's up, is it? Members, do we have any questions? Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, I'm going to ask, if I may, to have one of the pictures put up of the main access. It's Gate 5. Oh, I think you went too far. That's the one there. first question, is that what it currently looks like?
Yeah, I'll take this. So I suppose from this point of view, on this current picture, that shows a single width gate. We've actually changed that opening to now a double width gate to allow both in and out traffic to be passing to reduce the chances of something waiting for something to come in or out and creating any delays. It's also important to note that we haven't put the security hut for processing at that point. We've put it at the further inner, so that kind of gravel, I don't know if you can see it as well, but there's gravel there on that initial entrance. Thank you, Asif. Yeah, so the inner part of that kind of gravel area is where the security hut is, so that then when they're actually processing, they've pulled them well off the highway. And you can get kind of 2 or 3, not that you would expect to have, but just to give an idea of scale, 2 or 3 transporters in there at any one time, so you'd be well off the road. You can also see, which is easier to see from here, that gate 0 is quite a long way down. So you've got a lot of distance between anything else that was coming in and where gate 5 would be. It's quite a considerable distance in that space.
Okay.
I think hopefully that helps, sorry.
Okay, then can we go back to that picture again? Is the signage as it is now? Because it's mentioned that that transporters will only go gate 5. Now, if I'm approaching that from what I'm looking at the moment, and I did the site visit, in an HGV transport, and I'm not used to that site, necessarily a new driver, what would make me go straight on and not right at this point?
So currently, that's why we've got 2 members of staff in place. So the front one is for exactly that purpose, to kind of flag those people down and pull them into that gate. There has been additional signage put up, as you can imagine, practically until after this date, the level of investment in a large amount of signage. So at the moment, that's temporary signage, banners, for example. That would then become permanent signage as and when this was hopefully approved.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. That's all I need at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? Thank you very much. Now you could you could stay there if you want. Right. Do you have any questions for officers? Councillor Harper.
I guess it's an obvious follow-on, really. Chair, and through you, are officers happy with the proposed signage that's likely to be put up? And is that going to be part of the condition that it has to go up? Thank you.
There has been, through you, Chair, sorry, there has been some information on the temporary signage, and officers are satisfied. That's clear, but it is within committee's gift to secure additional signage if it is deemed appropriate.
Thanks, Jen. And then obviously, just a quick explanation, though we'll get to it in debate, is this all effectively sits on the fact that gate 0 mustn't be used for this particular application. I understand that it can be used for normal show traffic. I understand that. And I'm just conscious of how residents feel and to make sure that that is the only possibility. And I'm just thinking of what it might be manned. Somebody could turn their back for a second and the lorry's gone. So I just think, okay, thanks for the answers. I just wanted to clarify our position.
Any further questions for officers? No further questions for officers? In that case, oh, you got one, right, Councillor Casey?
No, actually, it's following on from Councillor Harper's questions. So the next stage then, if this is approved, would be to have an application for the more permanent signage to go ahead. In my mind, I'm thinking 2 arrows going like that, 5 and 0. So, which would be clear, but is that what would happen next? So have you had those applications, or would they be submitted? Is it conditioned? Actually, that's probably, yeah.
Through you, Chair, there has been some information on the banner signage that was mentioned. Officers were satisfied with that, but if you wanted additional signage to be secured, potentially we could either condition that, or that could be a standalone
it sounds like it, that it's going to be there.
I think I'll allow you to speak. I mean, if
I was going to say,
if you're
if you're happy, so the plan would be the fencing that we've already got there, which you can see, obviously is prime for us to put signage onto. That section of roadway is part of our demise, so legally we can put signage onto it, and yes, that would be the plan, would be to have something very large that says DHL this way, everything else the other way. Like I say, that's probably going to cost in the region of, to do it properly, I would want to spend in the region of about £1,000, and that will be something we'll do after this. Otherwise, it would be going in the bin. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you. I allowed you to speak on that because I think you were a better person to respond to that rather than officers. So you want to come in? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, through you, Chair. It's unlikely that any signage at this point would need any kind of consent anyway. Signage is covered by a different consent regime, advert regs, and many types of signage don't need consent, and I don't think what's being proposed here does. So I think it would be difficult to link any kind of condition to signage, and I think from an officer point of view, we're satisfied that you know, the signage that's been spoken about is sufficient to make it clear to drivers which way they need to go. Obviously, you can't 100% rule out a driver ever, you know, never taking the wrong turn. But, you know, considering the number of journeys to and from that will take place, I think that if that ever happened, it would be a rare occurrence, in officer opinion.
Thank you for that. Any more questions? No. No further questions? Okay. Oh, sorry. Councillor Sharp.
Just a very minor one. I think the point of clarity is just on the opening hours. I know the applicants changed the requested opening hours to 5:30, but you in the morning, but you've naturally put it to 6 as per the original application. Did the applicants make any representation as to why they wanted that half an hour earlier? And is there any implication to that?
Through you, Chair, the applicants indicated that they wanted an additional half an hour before 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. finishing, just for additional, the staff kind of coming on site for 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. start. But officers deemed that the potential for neighbour amenity impact wouldn't justify, so hence the 6 a.m. securing it.
You have supplementary? Go ahead.
If it indulges me, Chair, for you, and there was no pushback from the applicant, they were comfortable with your...
Through you, Chair, the applicant saw the condition and that wasn't their main concern. I think we talked about some other conditions, so...
Yep.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. On the previous application, unless I had voices, I thought there were complaints from some residents that traffic that had come that way had turned left into the actual North Gate and then got stuck at the first round, that sort of bottom southerly roundabout, as I would call it on that picture. So where I'm coming from on the signage is somebody unfamiliar not only could go up to 0, could turn left as well. And I'm just trying to think whether or you tell me, are officers happy that you can't say it didn't happen, because I'm sure it was in the thing that it did happen, that maybe that type of signage should occur to make sure that vehicles do go straight on and then see the guy standing at the gate or the lady standing at the gate.
Through you, Chair, you are correct, Councillor Harper. On the original batch of kind of consultation responses, neighbours did mention that transporters were getting lost at the Northgate side as well, but I've not had those comments made on the recent set of comments, but as you come down the dual carriageway of Joseph Oldham Way, the roundabout is quite open, and when viewed straight down, it's quite clear and obvious with the DHL, that even with the temporary signage there, officers are quite comfortable that it's quite a clear, the commercial is straight on and the left turning and the right turning appear to be a bit more residential. So we're quite clear with the openness and the visual that the entrance into the site is quite clear.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Now, before we move to the debate, on 17th of October, we had a very lengthy debate on this. And I'm open for a healthy debate. If members are minded to debate this, that's fine, or we'll probably go straight to the vote. So, the floor is yours. Councillor Harper?
I'm not going to propose yet. I'm going to go to debate. I just want to make... I'd like to hear what other people have got to say before, and they may all be in the same place that I'm at the moment. I'm a bit bemused because one can only assume then the ward councillors are all happy from this, which is fine, but I would just like, again, I would like to have heard that. So I had a chance to ask questions. I think to be fair to the developer, they have done, I think, all that could. So I think, and there's been no real sort of issue with what's going on the site. I think everybody seems to be happy with the type of work and pollution offices, etc. So I don't think there's any reason to go into that any further detail. My big issue was the gates. I'm still wary of it, but I accept everybody's explanation, and I would be looking to support officers' decision this time.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. Anybody else? So, you'd like to come in? Oh, okay.
Just one point I wanted to mention, Chair. Obviously, this item has come to committee before, and members, as you've mentioned, had a healthy discussion and reached a conclusion that the application should be refused. And I think, in the sake, I guess, of having reached that resolution, and now, obviously, if the proposal and the recommendation is followed, that's completely contrary to what members would have discussed. So I think that whilst I think it would be helpful for there to, I guess, for there to be a healthy discussion of it, so that members of the public and those watching have a clear understanding as to why members have moved from one very clear recommendation to the other. Because on the face of it, the application is relatively the same. So I think it would be helpful for there to be a discussion as to, so there's clarity really on that, on the reason for that change.
Thank you for your input on that. Yeah, you want to come in? Okay, go on.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Just following on from Adasu's comment there, the key difference between what's before committee now and what was before committee in October is that the Dunblane Drive access is no longer part of the application, and the reason for refusal centred around the impact on residential amenity of those living around the Dunblane Drive access. So that reason for refusal has effectively fallen away because that access isn't included in the application anymore.
I was going to disagree with you on that because it's a total different application. The directions have changed. Anyway, Councillor Casey.
Actually, I think I'm going to agree with both of those because I was on the last committee meeting and it was primarily it was the Dunblane Drive turn and the fact that it was a small road, residential road with a little roundabout that lorries got stuck on and caused damage to the curb. So actually, I think this is a completely different, materially different proposal for the access to our to the last one that we saw. I don't have any problems in approving this, and I'm really pleased to see the support of the parish council as well, because I know they were definitely against last time, and we had residents who were definitely against. I don't see as much. I don't see that pushback now, so I'm very much very happy to approve this.
Thank you, Councillor Casey. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, as previously stated, it seems to me that you know APG have gone away. They've kind of licked their wounds a little bit. Maybe they were expecting previously for things to have sailed through, but they've learnt and they've come back and they've learnt that they've listened to what the committee had to say. They've talked and engaged with ward councillors, with the parish council. They've even kind of looked at now using Gate 5 instead of Gate 0 because there were concerns around the residents of Northgate, or that portion of Northgate, with trucks going past, certainly early in the morning. So this is a much different proposition that's been put before, that, you know, slightly more humble, a little bit more about working with the residents, working with the community. And I know that there are forthcoming things that will be coming forward, presumably, to this committee for other applications. And I would hope that this is a corner turned, and that in future they will be listening to what the officers have to say in terms of what needs to be done, but also, you know, proper engagement with local residents and their representatives. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, it is a completely different application. The application in terms of the changes to the building, etc., was never really an issue. It was always about the ingress and egress from the site. And this is, you know, they've listened and they've adapted, and I'm sure they will do exactly the same with the signage. Because they know that their eyes are on them going forward. So, you know, we will be looking to see what signage you put up, and, you know, that will help with future applications. So I'm more than happy to support.
Thank you. Councillor Jamil?
Certainly echo comments made by colleagues. I was also there back in October as well, and it was the Dunblane Drive issue that I think most of us alluded to as to the reason why we had our doubts then. I feel reassured now, and I would be happy to move with officer recommendation on this.
Thank you. Councillor Brown? Apologies.
I thought somebody had left the room. Thank you, Chair. I wasn't at the original planning application, but I can see that the only issue here was the access. It's nice to see that the developers have listened to residents and the planning committee. There's been no anything from ward councillors in opposition, so I'm happy to go with this recommendation and support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jones.
It is me this time,
is it?
We're okay, yeah. I thought I was the only one who wasn't here last October, but in fact, I wasn't there. And my observations are based on what I saw last week and what I've heard today. The fact that the ward councillor has turned up, doesn't wish to speak, other ward councillors haven't turned up. They seem content with what is happening, and with what I saw last week, again, with sufficient signage in place, I'm happy to go with officer recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say that as a planning committee, I feel really good and proud. On 17th of October, we had a lot of representations from the residents. We heard their concerns, and we decided not to go ahead with the officer's recommendation. And the applicant has cooperated with the officers, and they've come to a conclusion which we felt was right for the resident, for the community. So on that point, I think as a committee member, we should be proud that, you know, we're making good decisions, aren't we? Anyway, no further debate. Can we go for a recommendation then? Councillor Harper?
Yes, Chair, and through you, no surprise, I'm sure that I propose that we go with officer's recommendation on this particular.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Hogg, are you happy to second? Yep. With the updated conditions?
Yes, of course, with the updated conditions.
Thank you. Right, now, all in favour, could you raise your green cards?
Unanimous, Chair, 11.
Against? No, I just have to say it. Somebody might want to change their mind. In that case, yeah, that's been granted. Thank you. We don't have any other further business, and that's it, isn't it? Thank you very much, members and everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.